the birth of UK stock car racing. Before we get into the video, let me introduce ORI Media. We're a small group of oval racing enthusiasts who post about the past and present of oval car racing in the UK. Our aim is to grow knowledge of the much loved but often overlooked sport. Going forward, we have plans to regularly post videos looking at the tracks, drivers and formulas, with a mixture of brief intro videos all the way through to deep dive videos. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but will allow you to keep track of the videos that we post. So where better to start than at the beginning of the sport in the UK? You won't be surprised to know that car racing around ovals began in southern USA. What might surprise you though, is the contact version we now have in the UK first landed in France in 1953. Hearing about the success of the sport, promoters were interested in bringing it to the UK. Charles Ochiltree and A.D. Sanderson, two speedway promoters with tracks at Coventry and Leicester, took the trip across the water to attend the meeting at Buffalo Stadium in Paris. Their journey didn't go as planned though, and they arrived late, meaning they missed the racing. However, seeing the condition of the track after the meeting was enough to put them off bringing the sport to the UK at first. Both would later go on to promote stock cars in the UK, but they wouldn't be the first. That honour went to Northampton-born Australian Digger Pugh. The first recorded showing of stock car racing in the UK took place at Hammersmith Town Hall, with over 100 enthusiasts watching racing captured in the USA. It must have gone down well, because not long after, the first stock car meeting ran on Good Friday, 16th of April 1954 at New Cross Stadium in London. The crowd attendance is reported to have been over 25,000. French driver Durgier took the win in the final, with number 35 Mac McDonald finishing second, a driver who would later go on to win the sport's first world final. Number 38 Tanya Crouch won her heat, proving the sport was well ahead of its time, allowing all to take part. With the crowds being so big, promoters all around the country could see the potential. Up north, a meeting took place on May 26th at Bradford Odsal. Charles Ochiltree and A.D. Sanderson were once again in attendance that day and decided to give stock cars a go at Coventry. Their initial reluctance to the track damage had been the potential problems it would cause to speedway racing. A lot of the venues in 1954 were greyhound or speedway stadiums, but some also took place in fields and parks. Promoters were very much in it for themselves to begin with, and cooperation between tracks and promoters was little to non-existent. With millions of spectators turning up around the country, promoters' main interest was getting as many of them into their venue as possible. Drivers were in abundance, and promoters would pick from a list of drivers wanting to race based on who the promoter thought would bring in the most paying customers. The drivers themselves were also making decent money. They would earn £10 start money just for racing their heat, and if they did well, prize money would also follow. Some drivers tried to take advantage of promoters, and there's stories of drivers pushing their mate around a track for a lap before pushing them to the infield so they could collect their appearance money. On one such occasion, the organisers investigated the car after the race, and it was found to have no spark plugs in the engine. Another ruse tried by drivers would be to register 3 cars with 3 fake names so they could collect 3 lots of appearance money. When promoters got wise to what was happening, they would put 3 names in the same heat, meaning car owners had to think outside the box and use guest drivers in their spare cars, splitting the appearance money. Amongst the many drivers involved in the first year, there were some big names. 4 of these were the Hart brothers, Tanya Crouch and Bill Bendix. Oliver and Ron Hart from Charnock Richer were 2 famous speedway riders. Oliver was the more successful speedway rider and was remembered fondly as one of the last riders to use only the leg trailing method of riding. Both won multiple finals in the inaugural season, racing mainly at Bellevue but also travelling to other northern tracks including Bradford, Wigan and Liverpool. Both were known for their no-nonsense driving style. With a good knowledge of race prep, their cars were always quick, and if drivers got in their way, they would remove them quickly. As with a lot of today's spectators, successful drivers had both their fans and their critics who weren't so keen on their continued success. Oliver once said, "I won a race at Bradford and they booed. I won at Bellevue and they booed even harder. If I got knocked into the fence or slewed around or turned over a barrel, they cheer. Some things don't change over time." Tanya Crouch was the first female winner in F1 stock cars, taking the checkered flag in her heat at the opening meeting at New Cross. Promoters would pay her to appear at their tracks, and she made regular appearances around the country, even taking a final win at the opening meeting at Bellevue. Bill Bendix is possibly the best known name from the era, and he was a driver who understood the importance of his bumpers. He would often leave rivals on their roof or facing the wrong way. Popular with the fans for his heavy-handed tactics, rivals weren't as thrilled, and many tried to return his aggressive style, with most being unsuccessful. Initially, drivers would race modified saloons, mainly American cars with V8 engines. Rules will vary from track to track, but a list of rules applicable to Bellevue and most tracks can be found in the ABC of Stock Car Racing by Johnny Hoskins, published in 1955. Over 35 venues hosted stock car racing in 1954, many of which wouldn't host stock cars beyond the first year. In the early days, the sport was seen by the general public as less of a sport and more as an entertaining spectacle, and there's been much debate since as to which category it falls under most. The sport would have 2 World Finals in 1955, one in the south and one in the north, and it would take until 1956 for the BSCDA to be formed and begin to shape the future of the sport, with national points introduced and a solitary annual World Final. So that's a brief look back at the beginning of stock car racing in the UK. At some point we hope to return to this topic and do more of a deep dive into the genesis of the sport. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons and keep your eye out for our next video.